Welcome to Targeting Your Project Management Job Search during COVID-19. My name is Dale Richards. I'm the VP of Public Relations for the Northern Utah chapter of PMI. I've been serving in that role since last summer, and it has been quite the roller coaster, quite the wild ride. It's a good experience. I'm thrilled to be serving with a lot of great board members, people that are much more experienced at PMI leadership than myself. Some of which are with us today. Roseanne is our president. She's here. Roseanne Bateman. Michelle Schumann is our EVP of Professional Development. Tracy Davison is our VP of Communications. I'm really privileged to work with these people and serve alongside with them. We have a really great community of project managers and practitioners in our chapter. Our chapter goes as far north as Ogden and the very tip of the state, down as far south as the kind of the lower boundaries of Utah County. But we also have members that are in the southern part of the state, in St. George. I'll dispense with talking more about us, but I'm going to have some live polling so we can learn more about everyone who's on the call. Today we're going to talk about advancing on the project management career path, searching for jobs in your area, matching vacancies to your experience level, and then also one item that I added since Monday when the video teaser went out, paying attention to market shifts, paying attention to market shifts, and then also working within the hiring company culture. So we'll talk about all of these points and how they can impact your search. Now, in the month of April, we're going to have a lot of different topics related to your job search. But today, we're really focusing on the initial search. We're going to have additional sessions on things like resume writing and other skills that you need to help you kind of land that gig. So I hope that you'll come back. You can keep in touch with us and you can see our events and our webinars at projectmanager.org. We have a live poll at slido.com. That's slido.com. And our session number is 5866. So if you can go to slido.com and enter 5866 as the session number, we're going to do the live poll now. All right. Where are you located? Are you a member? And also, are you a member of PMI Northern Utah? Now, obviously, that question about membership only really applies to those that are located here within the state. So if you can go ahead and indicate if you are in Utah and a member, indicate that. If you are in Utah but not a member, indicate that. If you're somewhere else in the U.S., we'd like to know that you're not here in Utah but that you're in the States. And also, if you're somewhere outside the U.S., we'd like to know that as well. That'll help guide the conversation today so that we know if we should be looking at some international examples. But generally, we're going to be looking at jobs here within the state of Utah. Now, you're welcome to apply the principles that we talk about, to your own state or wherever you're located. But all right, we're going to go ahead and move on. It looks like most of the people that are on the call today are members of our chapter, and that's great. And then there's some people that are living here in Utah that are not members. We hope that you will check us out at projectmanager.org. The chapter is great. We have quarterly luncheons. We've got an annual professional development conference. And that'll likely be held in the fall, depending upon how COVID-19 plays out. And then if you're somewhere else in the U.S., welcome. We're so happy to have you with us. So, all right, great. Next question. Which of the following best represents your job title and seniority? Are you an associate project manager, a senior PM, a PM manager, or director? So if you are someone who is managing project managers or directing project managers, in or outside of a project management office, go ahead and indicate that there. We wanted to just get a feel for who is who here in our audience. We have 9 responses so far. That's great. 11, good. So we've got some people that are coming in at the associate level and some seniors. We've got some program managers. Interesting. And then a few managers or directors. So most of us, though, looks like we are coming in as project managers, right in the middle of the career path. And then our final question on the live poll is, in which industry do you work? Software or information technology, other, construction, healthcare, finance, or banking? go ahead and take a minute to respond to that question so we can kind of get a feel for who we have. 17 responses, 19. Awesome. This is looking good. You guys rock. Just a reminder, if you're dialing in and and we can't see what your name is, please go ahead and write your name in the chat so that we have record of your attendance. That way, if PMI audits us, we can prove that you were actually here. That you can get a PDU. So when you go to PMI.org, you can report your PDUs. You can go to self-reporting. You can select self-report as a category, like self-learning, and you can indicate that you participated in this webinar. And you can indicate us as the people that provided the webinar. That's the Northern Utah chapter of PMI. Let's talk a little bit about advancing on the PM career path. And I think it's important to cover this, even though this might be, kind of already obvious to many of us. But I think it's worth a review, because if we're looking for jobs, we need to know what our options are, especially in terms of broadening our search criteria. So in the project manager career path, we've already established that many of us are right here at this project manager level. Some of us are associate project managers, some of us are senior, some of us are here as program managers. But it's important to recognize that if you're looking for a job, you can just look for project manager jobs if you'd like. But there's a lot of other options, a lot of other search criteria that you can, a lot of other keywords that you can enter into your search in order to find a new position for yourself. So if you're going to look for a job, why not also try to advance your career at the same time? So if you're a project manager currently, maybe it's time for you to be looking at senior project manager roles. And if you're a senior project manager and you have a lot of tenure at that level, it may be a great time for you to start looking for jobs like program manager or portfolio manager. You can look for PMO jobs, PMO manager, or PMO director jobs. And each of these, have very different titles and therefore very different search keywords that you can be using as you are searching for a job. So just know that as you're looking for jobs, make sure that you're paying attention to where you are currently on the career path and where you want to head next. Especially if there are major market shifts and changes, and there are new market dynamics out there. Maybe it's a time for you to switch to a different career path also. You could go back as a functional contributor, for example. Let's say if you're working in an IT product setting or a marketing setting, operations or engineering, maybe it's time to, if you have a lot of experience in that area, to kind of go back and be a functional contributor. Or maybe you've done your tour of duty as a project manager and now it's time to exit the formal project manager career path and become a functional leader. So you could go from a senior product manager role into a product role or a marketing operations or an engineering role, whatever it is that is specific to your industry. So if that's the case, then also the job search keywords are going to be very different. You're going to look for things like product manager, marketing manager, operations manager. If you're a PE, an engineer, maybe it's time to kind of go back into that role. So just looking at this one slide with all the different career paths that are all the different job titles on the career path, you can tell that there's a lot of different job roles that you can apply for. So let's broaden the scope of our search, and let's use search keywords that are a little bit broader than just project manager. All right, searching for jobs in your area. Here's an updated list of 50 sites also to help you in your search. I don't want anyone to feel overwhelmed at at all of these sites, because there's a lot of them. I personally like to use Google because Google a lot of times will aggregate jobs from a lot of these different sites. But Indeed, Glassdoor, LinkedIn, Google, again, Google is here at number 4. Monster, ZipRecruiter, Simply Hired, Career Builder, Snag. Some of these I never heard of. LinkUp, never heard of that before, but that could be a great option. Craigslist jobs, us.jobs. Robert Half is pretty active here in the state, so if you're looking for positions, they might be a good place to go. Job.com, usajobs.gov. In some cases, especially as you get into like NGO and some of the nonprofits, some of the and even some of the for-profit companies, if you're working, for example, in defense, you may need to have some kind of a clearance, and so if you don't already have that clearance, it can be really difficult to land a job in a place like that. And in a lot of cases, those jobs also require some pretty hefty engineering qualifications. But this is a great list. You can kind of check out some of these, and I'd be really curious to know if you want to ping me later. Hey, I tried Humentum number 20 and it really worked for me, or it didn't work for me, or I was able to use ResScore and found some great openings there in nonprofit or social. Especially if you're looking for, obviously remote work. We're all now looking for remote work, but FlexJobs, Remote.co, and JustRemote.co. Those could be some good sites to look at as well. Okay, now in searching for jobs in your area, here's the thing. Here's some simple steps you can follow in order to start looking for vacancies. I would suggest opening the search engine, whichever engine it is. It could be Google. It could be any of the rest of these search sites, job sites. You open the search engine or job site. You want to enter the job title and the location. And then I would suggest filtering by date posted, because if you don't filter by date posted, you could get vacancies that are as old as 3 or 4 weeks. And in a lot of cases, those companies may have put in a hiring freeze. So if you can look for jobs that are posted within the last few days, that's a really positive indicator that that company is still actively hiring, and that's a legitimate opportunity and not something that they've frozen. So you can filter by the date posted. You notice that you notice which companies are hiring, and then what you can also do from there is you can visit the careers page for those companies that are actively posting and hiring. So I'm going to go ahead and switch over and try to do that now. I'm going to open up a clean browser window. Can everyone still see this? Super simple. I'm just going to enter in Project Manager Jobs Utah. Okay. And it starts to list these jobs. I can click 100 plus more jobs. And then come up here, you can see all these filters. Can you see my cursor moving around these filters right here? I've got some jobs already listed here. And obviously some of these jobs are going to be applicable. Some of them aren't going to be. Most of us are in technology, so I'm going to focus our example search today on the IT space. So I'm going to click on this filter here, date posted. You can do past day, past 3 days, past week. I would just say past 3 days for the time being. If we wanted to extend the search, we can kind of make it the past week. But I definitely would not do past month because a lot has happened in the last month. All right, so let's look here. Project Manager, Senior, Galapagos LLC. This is a project site manager on Hill Air Force Base. That could be great for people that are doing integrated end-to-end IT services and that can have clearance to work on the Air Force Base. That's probably not the best example for us to look at today. So I'm going to move on to looking at other vacancies. Okay, let's look at, for example, so I can see here from the title, Senior Project Manager, Water. That's probably more of an infrastructure utilities, public health kind of a thing. So I'm going to skip that. Let's look at project manager at Kimmel and Associates. Steel fabrication. Okay. Interesting that now a lot of the top results in the search are really focused on, what are they focused on? They're focused on infrastructure, critical infrastructure, and in some cases health, but there's a lot of construction going on here. Let's get down here and go to SoFi. All right, SoFi Careers. So we know that SoFi is hiring because they posted this job 18 hours ago. That's really encouraging to see. Great. So that means that they don't have a hiring freeze necessarily. They have some background here about this role. They're hiring an experienced project manager to join their operations project management office. So they actually have a PMO, an operations PMO. That's great to know. Okay, the successful candidate will work directly with operations, product, engineering, compliance, business owners. Okay, so this is looking really, really good. Now what we can do is we can apply here. We can apply on any of these sites, but also we could go check out SoFi's career page. So let's go ahead and do that. In fact, I've already opened it up here. So, oh, no. All right, so here's the SoFi career page. Looking at the other jobs that are posted on the SoFi careers page, they have an associate manager of software engineering. Now that's not a project manager role, But if you have a software background and you are looking for a job, because we're in this kind of critical stage right now, you might consider applying for that. However, what do you notice about the job title that might be a deal breaker? It says associate manager. So this might be more of a junior role. If you are coming in and you are an associate manager already, or you have been in an associate project manager role, this might be a great fit for you because you're applying for something that is at your level or just slightly above your level. But if you're a project management director or a software director, you probably won't get hired. Just saying. And again, I don't want to say don't try, because who am I to tell you what these companies will and won't hire? Maybe you are the right person, but ideally we want to look for roles that are where we are at currently in the career path or slightly above. The rest of these roles at SoFi looks like they're mostly for engineers, so you can let your engineer friends know that SoFi is hiring, and yeah, so not a whole lot of other PM roles there at SoFi, but this is encouraging to see. So I'm going to go ahead and close that. What else do we have on here? Project Manager Mobile Applications at Medifast. Posted 41 minutes ago. Ooh, this is hot off the press. Project Manager Mobile Application. Looking for a strong project manager to support our client experience, mobile app development. Okay, this is looking good. Here are your responsibilities. Team management, status reporting, qualifications. Let's see. Need to know Jira or Confluence. Certified Scrum Master. Okay. So you can kind of get a feel for how we can then suddenly find which jobs are really, or which companies are still hiring. It's a surveyor. Global Regulatory Operations Project Specialist. So, all right. So you can, so BD is apparently still hiring. Now BD, I'm gonna switch back to the slides here for a little bit. I'm gonna jump around a little bit as well. BD is in medical devices and life science, and that's really interesting because a lot of companies that have put on hiring freezes, while other companies are still hiring. And if you kind of look at the shifts in the market, in fact, I'm going to kind of if you look at companies that are still hiring, you can see a lot of shifts in the market. So, for example, if we go and look for PMO jobs posted in the last week, let's check out which industries those are. So I actually already have this open. Where did it go? Project Manager Jobs Utah. I had it open. Here we go. PMO Jobs Utah. So what I did is I searched for PMO Jobs Utah. The date posted, I filtered for the last week. Well, first I filtered for the past 3 days, and there's just this one at Myriad Genetics. Head of PMO. What an exciting role. This is great. So for those of you that are looking for a job in Utah, that are senior or that are program managers or that are kind of getting far enough along on your career path, maybe this would be a good role for you, especially if you've worked in a PMO previously. I can broaden the search by looking at the past week, assuming that companies that have posted jobs in the last week are still hiring. Look at this now. Head of PMO at Myriad. We saw that one already. Senior Analyst, Project Management at Edwards Life Sciences. Reporting Analyst, EPMO at CHG Healthcare. Reporting Analyst, EPMO Jobs Warehouse. I'm not really sure what that is. That's probably actually one of the same roles, but through an agency. And in fact, I'll bet you that all three of these are. So, in fact, let's play a little game. We're going to look at the CHG Healthcare Reporting Analyst, EPMO. Let's see. In 1979, CHG shook things up. Let's look at something that's not CHG specific. The CHG... Let's see. The position will report to the Senior Director of CHG's Enterprise Program Management Office. Let's see if the next job is actually the same job. Yeah, this is the same job. I'll bet you this is the same one as well. This position will report to the Senior Director of CHG's Enterprise Program Management Office. So you kind of have to, don't get too excited. You kind of have to look at, which agencies are still trying to find or fill roles. It's really the same role. But fortunately here, Edwards Life Sciences is already, well, actually, this is still CHG. Excuse me. So CHG, here it is. CHG is really the hiring company. So what we should do is we should go straight to them and apply that way. But also, if you look at the senior program manager role here at BD, this is a different job. Now, if you look at this, we've got CHG, we've got BD, and we've got Myriad Genetics. All of these are in either healthcare or medicine in some way. And so it's easy to say, oh, goodness, we are just in this terrible situation. I cannot possibly get a job because all these companies have stopped hiring. And in many cases, many of the companies have put on hiring freezes. But just because there is less market demand among certain companies or among certain segments, that doesn't mean that there is less market demand overall. There have been shifts because we do have a lot of commerce happening in medicine, healthcare, in biotech, and also while restaurants may be suffering, grocery outlets are hiring. So we need to pay attention to shifts in the marketplace and look at, well, given what's going on, knowing which industries are thriving and which industries are suffering, where should we be looking? Which companies in which market segments are going to be less likely to hire, to freeze their hiring and to keep their hiring open? So let's keep that in mind, that we want to continue to look at shifts in the market so that we can pay attention to who is still going to hire. All right. Working within the hiring company culture. Now, some companies, especially in Utah on the Silicon Slopes, some companies are very pro-project. These are projectized companies with projectized cultures. And what I mean by that is these are the companies that they really get behind the PM role and they think and change their organizations in terms of a project management framework. So these are the companies that are hiring or they are posting vacancies with the titles project manager, senior project manager, etc. But then also you've got other companies, like especially in the product, the technology SaaS product space, that are what I'm going to call affectionately the anti-PM organization or a productized organization. So these are companies that, for whatever reason, maybe their leadership has had a bad experience with the role project manager in the past, and so they've decided, hey, we are a productized company. We are product focused. It's all about product, not project. It's about outcomes, not outputs. And I even had a chief product officer tell me point blank across the table, we do not hire project managers here. And so all of the roles that have responsibilities that are similar to the skill sets that you and I all have, those roles are going to be labeled something other than project manager. And a lot of the language that we use in the project management framework will not be used in the vacancies. So is it really important? Like, is it really that big of a deal that there are these kind of productized companies out there? No. The most important thing is that these companies are growing and that they are shifting from a lower ability to deliver value, a lower maturity, to a higher maturity. So wherever they are, we want to help them. And if you want to get a job at one of these companies, just know that just because a company doesn't have a projectized culture, that doesn't mean that you can't apply for and even get a job at those companies. As you're looking for vacancies, what you want to do is you want to pay attention to the language that's used in those vacancies. Here's some examples that I pulled today from some postings from a projectized culture and a productized culture. So the projectized culture, as a project manager, note the use of the term project manager. Okay, you're going to define project scope, goals, deliverables, stakeholders, senior management. Look at the other words that they're using. Project plans, agile development methodologies. So these companies are very likely to hire someone with a PM background and PM experience, and they're going to even post a vacancy with a PM title. On the productized side, though, in a productized culture, these companies are going to be looking for... Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't post the right text in that slide. Let me go ahead and switch that around a little bit. I think I found it over here. No. Let's do this on the fly. So if I'm going back to Google to look for jobs, this time instead of looking for a project manager title, I'm going to look for a product manager. Product manager jobs, Utah. Okay, good. So I'm going to look at all the jobs here. I'm going to filter by date posted. Past 3 days. My computer's getting slower and slower because of all the stuff that's happening here. But all right, Jaybird. Who's got a pair of Jaybird headphones? I had a pair of those once. Those are awesome. Okay, looking for a strong digital product manager with excellent organizational skills. Look at the kinds of things in their job responsibilities. Understanding the customer through research, user testing, and web analytics. Collaborating on a digital roadmap. Partnering with UX to create a digital customer experience. Let's see. Participating in scorecards and dashboards. Leading acceptance and testing activities, driving with schedule release planning activities. So a lot of these, they are kind of like project management activities, only they've been relabeled, renamed. And so what we want to do is we want to look for roles that they still are, they still require the kinds of skills that we have as practitioners, but that perhaps they're using a different set of words to describe those responsibilities. So this is a great example, this Jaybird product manager role. Senior product manager, Nice in Contact. Now, Nice in Contact is not necessarily an anti-PM or a productized organization. They do have project manager roles, but they also have product manager roles. And so you can, in that case, having a resume that has project management language on it isn't necessarily a bad thing. Let's see. As a product manager, you'll analyze, document, and communicate intelligence regarding client and prospect feedback. You're going to look at new market opportunities. The difference between a product manager role and a project manager role, though, is that in a lot of cases, the product manager role can include responsibilities like being responsible for like the performance of the product on the market, really understanding the user, and in a lot of cases, if you've been serving in a purely project role, you may not be used to doing those kinds of things. But it's a great if you can find a company that can take your experience and your personality and the traits that you bring and put you into a product role. Doing a tour of duty in product management is one of the most healthy things that you can do. One of the healthiest things you can do for your project management career. Let's look at this Pluralsight vacancy. Who you are. You're committed to creating a world-class customer experience. You ask specific questions, understanding nuances. You care about the success of your customers and partners. Let's see. You'll own setting the outcomes with your team. You're going to work with internal teams to create and refine our services strategy. You're going to communicate plans, progress, goals, challenges, testing proposed service products. So a lot of these things, again, can be very similar or parallel to what we do in a project role. All right. So that is working within the hiring company culture. You want to make sure that you're not using a lot of projectized language when you're applying for a job in a productized culture, because in some cases they might see that as a negative and they might hold it against you. So again, looking for the language that we're using in the vacancies and then tailoring our application for that. Now, we're not going to cover resume writing today. We likely will have another Thursday webinar from our chapter about that, where we can kind of get into the details of how you can write a resume for a projectized culture versus a productized culture. But we're not going to get into a lot of detail today just because we're running short on time and we want to have some time for Q&A. So just to kind of summarize the information I've thrown at you, and then we'll open up for questions and discussion. Make sure that you're advancing on the project management career path, that you're going from where you are to slightly above where you are if you can. And also doing that will increase your chances of getting hired. Searching for jobs in your area. We talked about going to the search site. We talked about filtering for jobs in the last 3 days so that you can make sure that you're looking at companies that are actually still hiring, that they haven't put a freeze on their hiring. matching vacancies to your experience level, paying attention to market shifts, making sure that you're looking at the industries that are thriving in our current crisis, and then also working within the hiring company culture. So I'm going to go ahead and end that there and open it up for Q&A so we can have some good discussion. Obviously, you probably have come today with specific things that you wanted to get out of our discussion, and so especially if there are things that we haven't covered that you'd like to have us address either today during the Q&A or in a future webinar this month, go ahead and bring those up now. And let's go ahead and open up the floor. And I will stop presenting so I can see the chat. Max Walker comments, sometimes the job listing is real, and sometimes it's also a way of identifying candidates for related positions. It's a very, very interesting observation. Thank you. Oh, Max mentioned Barry at Red Rock. I actually had a gentleman, one of our chapter members from BioFire is the company that's hiring, so they're looking for roles for candidates right now. It looks like this is a question from, is it Ansa? Is that how you say it? Matkovshi. What's your take on declaring current income in job applications? Many positions require an answer. What you could do is you could go to Glassdoor and search for example, you could look for the company. So let's say I go to Glassdoor.com. I'm going to look for salaries at BioFire. Okay, so project manager, BioFire. Okay, senior project manager salaries in Provo, Utah area. What we want to do is we want to look at, search for a specific employer. Let's see if we can bring up BioFire here. Okay. Let's try this one more time. BioFire. Search. So to answer your question, Ansa, I would say if you can search for the salaries with that job title from that specific company, then you can kind of know what they typically ask, and then you can know if it's going to work for you and your family, or if you should keep looking, or if you should request a salary that is kind of somewhere in the range of what they're offering. So here's a software test engineer, engineering project manager at BioFire. Looks like the average salary there is $109K per year. So then you can know, like, oh yeah, okay, I feel comfortable that I could ask for, $115K, and that isn't going to be totally unreasonable for them. It would be unreasonable if you were to ask for that from a company that's paying $40,000 or $60,000 a year, for a PM role. So I hope that answers your question. So again, and to summarize, double check what the company is already offering on the market today so that you can know if it's reasonable for you to ask that much or not. That's what I would do. Anybody want to just jump in with an audio question? That's also fine.
I can give you mine. I've been working in the technical field running projects for the last 10 years. Got my PMP and my Scrum Master, and trying to move into a project manager role, but finding it difficult to get something that's not on the starting scale in the project management world. How would I do that to get something comparable to what I was getting in the technical world?
When you say technical, can you describe your current industry in a little bit more detail? What kinds of projects?
Healthcare, IT.
And you're trying to go into what?
Project management, managing those projects that I've been pretty much running, but not having the title.
Okay, this is a really, I'll tell you a quick little story. A young man came to visit me in my office about 2 years ago. And obviously he's in a very different situation than you are right now. But he was wrapping up college. He came and he said, like, hey, I'm interested in project management. I saw that you own this PM firm. I'm looking for project manager jobs, but they all require 3 to 5 years of experience. What am I doing wrong? And I told him, like, hey, it's because you're looking for the wrong job title. If you want to enter the career path at the beginning, then you're going to have to look for a role that is an associate role or a project coordinator role. These are the entry-level titles. So in some cases, it can be that there's a mismatch between. It can be like a mismatch on your side, where you have a mismatch between what you want and the search terms that you're using or the title that you're searching for. In some cases, it can also be a mismatch on the hiring company's side. So it's basically like their mistake. What they're doing is they're saying, here's a list of everything that we want in our candidate, but we're going to pay them half as much as what the market will normally pay them. And we want them to have a PMP and we want them to have all of this stuff. And I've given feedback to companies in the past, like, hey, you've got this backwards. You know, you need to shift and make your posting requisite with what the market will bear. The reason, and it's interesting too, because this one company in particular, the founder is a friend of mine, and they kept posting it. We're looking for project managers. We're looking for project managers. And I looked at the job postings, and I was just surprised. Like, no one who is looking for a project manager title is going to want this job because the salary and the title do not match. So if you are looking for a role where you're already managing those projects and you're having difficulty finding a point of entry because can you repeat again what the problem specifically was, that they're looking for people with more experience in that role, or they're looking for more experience than what you have in that title? Is that what you said?
Probably having the title. I've been, engineer, specialist, but I've been implementing projects for a long time.
Right.
And pretty much running the whole show. And so when I guess if they look at my resume, I don't have the word project manager on there.
Yeah, I think you're probably giving them a little bit too much credit for looking at the title only. You might look at some of the content in your resume in that job experience section. Like if your title is engineer, senior, engineer for did you say like biotech or something like that? Then in the bullets, like the first thing you need to say is manage these kinds of projects by doing this and this and this. And if you can look at the responsibilities that they have listed in the job description and tailor the bullet points in your experience in your current role to that, then they'll see like, hey, this guy's got a different title, but he's obviously already managing these projects. I doubt that they're if they're excluding you solely on the basis of job title, it's probably because there's a computer doing it and not a human being. And I would say it's time to start networking with into that company and finding who the hiring manager is, which is a great topic that we'll explore on another webinar. So stay tuned for more information about that. But in a lot of cases, you have to get past the computer and you have to get in front of someone who's a real person to say like, hey, I'm already doing this. I've got great qualifications. I've got great recommendations from people, wonderful references, and I'm already doing exactly what you need, even though I'm working as an engineer currently.
If I could just add one piece of content here, this is a great place to utilize your cover letter, particularly in a T-letter format, to explain why you're transitioning. And it's a great place to trick the ATS into paying attention to your application. And finally, this might also be an opportunity to look at those product manager roles.
Is that Gregory speaking?
Yes, it was.
That's great. Thank you, Gregory. Let's see. Other questions? Just jump in on audio if you'd like. Oh, I agree with Craig's comment also that if your role involves a lot of project management, you can just add it to your title. Senior engineer, project manager. That's a great thing to do. I don't know that people really are worried about like job title fraud. If you're already fulfilling PM responsibilities, adding that to your actual job title on paper can be a completely acceptable thing to do. I worked as a project manager for a company called Rosetta Stone for several years, and halfway through they changed our job title to producer. And so now I had this job title, producer, project manager. But even though it wasn't my outgoing job title, I always included project manager in this, in the title with producer, because I wanted people to see that I was still filling a project manager role. Great question. Any other questions before we wrap up? We have 2 minutes left. Okay. All right. Hearing nothing, I'll go ahead and say thank you very much for joining us today. We will have a webinar every Thursday at noon for the month of April. So we've got some great topics. We're going to hear from Christy Brockman. She's our new VP of Volunteers. We are going to hear from some other speakers from our board. We're going to dive into topics like networking into the hiring manager. We're going to cover some resume writing and some other great things. But stay tuned. And also, let me know how it goes for you in this search. If things worked out for you from today, if you apply these principles and you're able to land some good vacancies, let me know. If you're stuck, let me know. I'm happy to do what I can to help direct your search. So thank you very much for joining. Don't forget to get a PDU. And it's my pleasure. Everyone have a great Thursday. Stay safe and be healthy and take care of yourselves. All right.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.
Take care.
Bye-bye.